The first thing I noticed was the way the sky seemed to press down, heavy with the weight of something too deep to name. It was the kind of day where the sun feels too quiet and the clouds linger, dark and thick. The air smelled of damp earth, not quite rain, just a kind of stillness before a storm. I had been standing at the bus stop for what felt like hours, my hands buried deep in my pockets as I stared out at the empty street. The world felt too big for me, like a vast ocean I was too tired to navigate. I didn't really expect anyone to be there. Most of the people had already evacuated, rushing to wherever they thought safety lay. But as the bus pulled into view, I noticed something. It wasn't a person at first, but a tiny form huddled near the bench by the stop. A dog, a small one, shivering in the rain. It looked as if it had been there for days, maybe even longer, its fur matted and filthy. But what caught my eye, what made my heart skip a beat, was a small, faded scarf tied around its neck. It was a child's scarf, the kind that would once been wrapped around a tiny neck, maybe a daughter's or a son's. The fabric was worn thin, fraying at the edges, but still holding on as if it could keep some memories safe. I didn't know why I stopped. Maybe it was the loneliness or the sense of quiet that seemed to swallow up the world around us, but I found myself crouching down to its level. The dog's eyes, large and round, stared up at me. Vulnerable, searching for something, anything. I could almost hear its soft plea through the silence. I wasn't sure what it was asking for. Food? Shelter? Or maybe just a moment of warmth, a connection. I reached out slowly, unsure if it would flinch or run. But it didn't. It stayed still, its small body trembling under the weight of both fear and hope. I could feel the steady beat of its heart through my fingers as I gently touched its head. That's when I realized I wasn't just comforting the dog. It was comforting me. It was like the universe had pressed pause for a moment, and in that pause, I found a breath I didn't know I needed. I had been a widow for almost a year now, my life filled with echoes of silence I hadn't learned to quiet. Grief had a way of swallowing you whole. At first, you don't notice it. You keep moving through the motions, making tea, watching the clock tick away the hours. But then, without warning, it becomes louder than everything else. It steals your breath, your sleep, your strength, and no matter how hard I tried to fill the space with people, with distractions, it was never enough. But this small dog, with its sad, hopeful eyes, was different. It wasn't asking for anything except to be seen. And in that moment, I saw it. I saw the pain, the rawness, the quiet despair it carried with it. I saw it, and for the first time in months, I didn't feel alone. I looked around. No one else was at the bus stop. No one else had stopped to help. And I wondered if this was fate's way of showing me that sometimes we find the things we need in the least expected places. As the bus pulled up, I hesitated. I didn't want to leave it, but I also knew I couldn't stay there forever. The doors hissed open, the cold air creeping in from outside. The dog, sensing the change in movement, tried to stand, but its legs wobbled beneath it. I reached down instinctively and lifted it, holding its tiny body close to mine. It was warm, surprisingly warm, like a flicker of life that refused to go out. On the bus, I kept it close, cradling it against my chest as the other passengers avoided looking at us. I could feel the quiet hum of their discomfort, the unspoken judgment of a woman holding a stray dog as if it were the most natural thing in the world. I ignored it. What did they know of the weight I carried? What did they know of the empty spaces I had been trying to fill? The bus rattled down the street, but I didn't see the buildings or the people. I saw only the dog, its face turned toward mine, its eyes softening, trusting me more with each passing moment. And as I watched it, I found my own breath coming a little easier. The weight of grief, the heavy cloak I'd worn for so long, seemed just a little bit lighter. It wasn't gone, not by any means, but it was like the start of something, a crack in the wall that had been built around my heart. As the days passed, I couldn't help but notice the way the dog changed. It wasn't just the dog that had been found. It was me. I started taking it out for walks, letting it explore the park where I used to go with my husband. Before everything fell apart, we walked along the same path under the same trees, but it was different now. It felt like we were finding each other again, piece by piece. The dog, I called it Milo. At first, it didn't seem to respond to the name, but over time it did. It learned to trust me, to sit by my side without fear, to follow me down the same path over and over again, even as the world changed around us. And I began to trust again, too. I began to feel like maybe I wasn't so alone anymore. One afternoon, as we sat on a bench in the park, I noticed something in the grass. It was a small stuffed toy, faded and tattered like the scarf. It had been dropped carelessly, abandoned just like the dog. I picked it up, feeling the soft fabric in my hands, and I turned it over, finding a small note tucked inside. The handwriting was childlike, shaky, but legible. "I'm sorry, I can't take care of you anymore. Please find someone who can love you like I did." The words hit me like a wave, and for a moment, I couldn't breathe. This wasn't just a stray. This was someone's heart, someone's child's heart, broken and lost. I sat there, holding the toy in my hands, staring at the note as the tears began to fall. I didn't know who had left Milo behind. I didn't know if it was a family forced to leave because of war, or a child too young to understand why their pet had to go. But what I did know was this: the love that had been given to this dog, however brief, had been real. And maybe, just maybe, it wasn't too late to give that love back. Days turned into weeks, and as the world around us grew more uncertain, Milo and I became an unexpected anchor for each other. I had expected that caring for the dog would fill a gap in my heart, but I never anticipated how much it would heal the spaces I didn't even realize were broken. Milo had this quiet way about him, always gentle, always present. He didn't demand anything, except maybe the occasional scratch behind his ears or a treat. But it was in the way he looked at me, the way his eyes seemed to hold so much understanding, that I began to feel like I wasn't just caring for him. He was caring for me too, in ways I could not fully explain. The days when I woke up feeling like I couldn't move through the weight of grief, those were the days when Milo would nudge my hand, paw at my leg, his eyes wide with an invitation to step outside, to breathe in the world again. And I would walk with him, letting the fresh air fill my lungs, letting the rhythm of our steps remind me that the world, though quiet and cold, was still turning. One afternoon, as we walked through the park, we passed a bench where an elderly woman sat, her hands folded in her lap. She was staring ahead, her gaze fixed, distant. Her face was lined with age, but there was something gentle about her, something that made her seem like she had seen a lifetime of stories, joys, and sorrows. Milo, as he always did, tugged at the leash, eager to go say hello. When we approached her, she looked down at Milo with a faint smile. Her eyes softened, as though seeing something she had long forgotten. And then, without warning, she began to speak. "You know," she said, her voice trembling ever so slightly, "I used to have a dog just like him. His name was Jack. He was my companion, my heart for nearly 15 years. Her voice faltered, and she paused, as if the memory of Jack was both a balm and a wound. "I had to let him go a few months ago. It broke me, but sometimes I think he's still here with me, just in a different form." I sat down beside her, letting Milo sniff her outstretched hand. "I think Milo reminds you of him," I said quietly. The woman nodded, her eyes brimming with tears. "I never thought I'd be ready to love again, not after losing him. But sometimes I feel like the love never really leaves. It just moves through time, finds a new way to be felt." I didn't say anything for a moment, just listened to the wind rustling through the trees, feeling the weight of her words settle in my chest. It was the same thing I had been feeling. It was as if Milo had come to me not to replace what I lost, but to help me carry it forward, to show me that love, like grief, wasn't a finite thing. It could stretch, evolve, shift, and still it would be enough. The woman reached down and patted Milo's head, her fingers brushing over his soft fur. "I think he's been sent to help you too," she added softly. "Sometimes all we need is something that reminds us of who we were before the hurt, before the darkness. It gives us a way to start again." It was like a flicker of light, a moment of clarity that broke through the cloud of grief I had been holding on to. It wasn't about erasing the past. It wasn't about forgetting the people and moments I had lost. It was about understanding that there was room for more. There was room for healing, for connection, and for love that came from the most unexpected places. A few weeks later, the day came when I finally decided to follow Milo's lead in the most profound way. He had become more than just a dog to me. He was a bridge to a life I thought I had lost, a reminder that there was still beauty, still connection, still hope in a world that often seemed broken. I took him to the shelter where I had first found him, the place where the memory of his past had been carried in a small scarf and a note. It was time to find out more, to give him the answers he deserved. I had no idea what I would uncover, but I knew it didn't matter. What mattered was that I had come full circle. Inside the shelter, I spoke to a kind woman who had been working there for years. She led me to a small file, dusty from the years, and there, in the notes, was a name, Lena, a little girl who'd been evacuated with her family. It was a name I hadn't expected, but one that fit. The woman explained that Lena and her family had been forced to leave their home due to the escalating conflict. They had fled, leaving behind everything they could not carry. The family had been separated in the chaos of evacuation, and in the madness, Lena's dog had been left behind, Milo. The family had tried to return, but it was too late. By then, Milo had been found and brought to the shelter, waiting, just waiting. It was a child's love that kept him going, the woman said. And it's that same love that will continue with him, whether he's with Lena again or not. The woman gave me the number of the last known address for Lena's family. I held a piece of paper in my hand, unsure of what to do with it. Part of me longed for a reunion, a happy ending where the family found their lost dog again. But the other part of me knew that Milo's journey had been long, and perhaps it was mine to continue guiding him, to let him give others the same love he had given me. I didn't make the call. Instead, I walked back outside with Milo, feeling the weight of the sky begin to lift. It wasn't about answers anymore. It was about the love we shared in the now, the quiet moments we had together, and the understanding that we were both healing, in our own ways, piece by piece. As I walked back to the park where we had first met, I thought about everything that had happened. I thought about the empty bus stop, the quiet sky, the little scarf, and I thought about the girl, Lena, who had loved Milo, who had hoped that someone would find him and care for him. And in some way, she had found her wish come true, because we had both been found. Milo and I, we had saved each other. I looked down at him, his eyes meeting mine with that familiar tenderness, and I whispered softly, "You didn't just need saving, Milo. You saved me." If there's one thing that I've learned from all of this, it's that healing doesn't happen in grand gestures or perfect endings. Sometimes it happens in the smallest of moments, the quiet gaze of a dog, the weight of a scarf, a child's love that endures through the years. And if you find it, if you see it, you'll know that you don't just get a second chance at love. You get a chance to give it over and over again. If you're reading this, I ask you to remember, there are always animals out there who need a second chance. And sometimes we need to give them a chance to save us too. Help support Animal Rescue. Share this story. Believe in kindness. And remember that love, in all its forms, can heal the world.